Okay, it is Thursday, April 9th. It is 5:31. We are going to begin the meeting for the Library Board of Trustees for the City of Palm Springs. May I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Juanita Garner,
Yes.
David Norgard,
Yes.
Al Jones, not yet, Gary Brackett,
Present.
and Deborah Schwartz said she cannot make it.
Okay.
You have a quorum.
Great. Okay, can I have a motion to accept the agenda?
Move the agenda as presented.
You want to make accept the agenda with item 7A moved up.
Yes,
I
okay.
move that we accept the agenda as amended.
Great.
That's what I said first time.
Something like that.
Okay. And we have a second?
Second.
Great.
All in favor?
So, do we have to do a roll call because
You don't.
he might
Not yet.
join?
He's not online yet.
He's not online yet, okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Public comment. This time is set aside for members of the public to address the Library Board of Trustees on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter within your jurisdiction of the city. Although the Library Board of Trustees values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. Each speaker has 3 minutes. Do we have any speakers today?
And Peter, you'll wait until your report time, right?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay, we are going to move item 7 up now because we want to hear from Scott. Scott, you're up.
Oh, okay.
So I can preface the item if you would like. I can give a little
That would be
report.
great.
Great,
Lead off.
Sit
Yeah,
anywhere?
Sit anywhere.
sure.
So item 7A, discussion of library materials and supplies budget fiscal year 2025-26 and 26-27. So at your last meeting, we were reviewing the budget, and the trustees expressed concern regarding significant citywide reductions to materials and supplies line item and the impact on library operations. So I created some tables in your packet, pages 19 and 20, to show how we will budget, how we're going to come in on budget. So, Scott, if you have the packet, page 18, 19, 20,
Okay.
pretty deep in there.
Oh.
So this current fiscal year is 2025-26. We are in April. We're almost finished with this whole fiscal year. And the finance department did a reduction. And Scott, I'll give my little part, and then if you want to chime in, that's
Sure.
I'm bossing you. But
I'm used to it.
so our materials and supplies line item was originally, I had originally requested $476,650. The amount that was originally authorized was $421,650. There was a reduction, a pre-decline, if you will, of $55,000. But then the finance department did their cuts, so then the materials and supplies bottom line was $327,977. So of those, we have 9 line items. Those used to be separate, nine separate account lines.
Separate account lines.
Account lines, yeah, they were all separated. Several years ago, we merged them all into one called materials and supplies. So this is how I keep track of the money, by having the different line items spread out. So if you look at this, if you look at each line item as an example, the books budget was originally $142,000, but now it's $126,000. So it's a cut of $15,800. So if you look at it in that way, it's not completely horrific, if you will, a technical term. The biggest cut was that $50,000 was not approved. That was what we had budgeted for the anniversary celebration and rebranding efforts, and then $5,000 for some computer equipment. But we are going to get this budget balanced this year because we transferred $41,600 from other line items. Those, you'll see those in bold, the communications transfer, printing, advertising, and so on. So I found $41,600 from other categories that I can put into this to balance. And then the other thing that is not, it's on page 22. This is our year-to-date budget report. And our materials and supplies, this is how much we've actually spent. We've spent $269,000. You'll see the columns going across. The category that says encumbrances, we have $169,000 encumbered, and I thought that was pretty high, and it turns out it is high because there was an accounting, I don't know, mistake where last year's encumbrances were carried forward, and I didn't think they were. So there's about $62,500 that I didn't budget for that needs to be subtracted from this encumbrances line, which means our available budget would come in really close to about zero on this as of what we're spending right now. So I'm gonna, the encumbrance category, the $169,000, I'm gonna request from finance to subtract $62,000 out of that. And then that, in my mind, this all works for this year.
For this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the money that's set aside is money for books and DVDs and media. We do a blanket purchase order at the beginning of each year for those vendors. So we do one purchase order, and then as the bills come in, we just pay it down from that set aside.
So that's what the encumbrance is?
Yes, so those are open purchase orders. That's not.
So they don't close them out at the end of your fiscal year?
They, some of our budget, we have like a 5-year contract with those, and so we would just roll the purchase order and take all the, zero out the money, and then start with the new money for the new year. But then last year, it didn't happen that way, so then it kind of left the money there, and so it made it look really out of whack. But it's more balanced than it appears, I guess if that helps. Now fiscal year 26-27, this one is cut even more. So the way that I did this chart, I did this chart with comparing it to fiscal year 24-25. So this is compared to the 2 years ago, the before the cuts period. So that's why it looks like the cuts are even more harsh, because technically if you compared it to where we were regularly, the cuts are very harsh. So, you know, we're going from a book budget, originally it was about 140,000. Now this current fiscal year, we've reduced that to 126, and then next year it's going to be 86. So next year we're going to need to figure out, we can balance our budget. It's just that we will have to significantly spend a lot less than we're accustomed to. So I don't.
So were these across the board cuts made by the finance?
Yeah, and that's maybe where Scott can help us out.
I mean, I'm just trying to figure out where we are.
Yeah.
Scott Stiles is our city manager. I forgot to introduce you.
Hi, Gary.
Okay. Well, first of all, Commission, thank you for inviting me. Madam Chair, thank you for having me here. Members of the Commission, I'm Scott Stiles, City Manager. The first thing I wanted to mention, I was looking at your agenda, and the alternate meeting location is Puerto Vallarta.
Yes.
Could I have gone to that location?
If you had requested it in time, but
Yeah.
Pay your own expense out of somebody
I
else's
saw
budget.
PV and I said, shoot, why didn't I go there and call in? Thank you for inviting me. We have all our commissions, and I try to, every once in a while, get to some of them, and I can't get to all of them all the time. And you all have had a really good, I wanted to give you a little update on the construction of the library, if you'd like one.
Sure.
I'd also like to compliment you on your naming rights report that went to the city council last night and was approved. So congratulations to the Friends and the foundation, everybody who's raising money on behalf of the library. It was tremendous. I think there were 2 naming rights. Our city policy is everything over 100,000 has to be approved by city council, and everything under 100,000 has to be approved by, I'm allowed to approve those, right? And so I'm ready to approve those right now if you want me to Director Kays. So you let me know whatever I need to do, if I need to respond to an email or something, but
It's our first time out of the gates.
no, it was great. In fact, when we did the report, I suggested to Jeannie, obviously, we needed to take the 2 large donations before council, but I said, let's add an attachment with all the smaller donations. Obviously, I can approve those, but let's let the public see the whole list of everybody else that's, even if they're donating $1,000, $5,000,
That's
every little
huge,
bit
yeah.
helps, and they're tremendous donations for us, so we're very, very grateful of
Scott,
that.
we'll tell you too, that Peter Pearson is the CEO of the Library Foundation. He's online. from
Hello.
Oh, okay, well, and I saw your renderings of the, it's not Frey, it's Fry, right? So, I saw the renderings of the new Fry building, and that's gonna be really nice.
I'm really glad that we were able to include that in this project, because it's gonna look so nice. It
Yeah.
is really becoming a little eyesore on the curb.
Right. So anyway, and maybe I can circle back. I want to address your first question first about the budget and that, and then maybe I can give you a little update on the progress of the library itself. But and Jeannie, you're going to have to help me on this. I remember based on, I think what budget did, staff did, we did across the board cuts for all departments. We do a 2-year budget, so we're in our current first year fiscal budget. And so we will be, actually in the next 2 months, we'll be taking to city council what we call our continuation budget. It's already been approved for 2 years, but at the midpoint of a 2-year budget, you always make corrections. There's unfunded mandates from the state and other corrections that, have to be done. So I think it was, we're, at the time, and we still are, we're cautiously optimistic about our finances. As I look at sales tax, property tax, and hotel taxes, those are our three big revenue sources. They're all holding pretty steady. Sales tax is doing well, property tax is real steady. Hotel taxes are, we were all worried about the impact of Canadians and everything else. It's down slightly, but not that much. And so what it means is we're remaining cautiously optimistic about our budget, and we think we're in decent shape. We had to put into effect kind of what I called a soft hiring freeze with all of our departments. Wasn't a hard freeze. We wanted to make sure all of our police and fire professionals and public safety, they were filling all the positions they needed to fill. Everybody else, we said, well, we're not saying no to filling positions, but we are saying let's take a close look at them. Do we need to fill positions right away? Even Jeannie, in your department, you're kind of in this transition year right now. You've moved to and I think you might even have a position or two that you're saying, hey, let's just kind of sit tight for a second here. I might not even need to fill them for a few months yet until we're ready to ramp up. And so when I spent some time convened a little meeting with Jeannie and Teresa Gallivan, our assistant city manager, who works more closely with Jeannie on all library matters, as well as our finance director. And we talked about the budget process, and Jeannie had a chance to share with us, the concern about getting the library, when the library opens, are we gonna have the ability to buy everything we need? And of course, when the library opens, we want it to open to great fanfare, and we want to have the materials and books and everything that we need there. So we had that discussion, and I think part of what our finance director did, which I'm kind of glad he did, is he looks at what everybody spent for different departments throughout the year. You did a particularly good job because you didn't spend everything that you could have spent. And so then when, we did some cost reductions across the board, it turns out, she took a bigger hit probably than even you were thinking about at the time. So I'm happy she didn't automatically spend as much as she had to just for the sake of spending. So part of our discussion is we'll be going into our mid-year budget adjustments next month. And the new library is scheduled to open
Don't quote.
early 2027 sometime. we're
Sometime in
hoping.
2027.
And so what we want to do is make sure that we're prepared. And what I've asked Jeannie to do is sit down with our finance director and Teresa and come up with what's a reasonable amount of adjustment that you need for supplies and books and that sort of thing. And my expectation is the three of them will have a conversation. They'll figure out what makes sense, and then away we go. And we want to be prepared for next year when the library opens. So certainly, you might not want to buy a lot of books and supplies right now because where are you going to store them? So, but we do want her to be prepared when that time comes. So I'm not too concerned about it. I think things will get worked out and we'll figure out a good solution that works for everybody. So that's what I've encouraged them to do, and maybe Jeannie, I'm sure you will be able to report back. And in a month or so, we'll make our budget adjustments and we'll be able to figure that out.
So one of the things that we talked about was that because the library has taken these different line items and compressed them into one, that perhaps that was the reason that we took such a big cut, because it was all of these items together listed as materials. And so going forward in the future, would it be possible to again have all those itemize it so that when those cuts are made, it's not as severe a cut for the library as it is for other departments? I mean, I think that initially that sounded like a great idea to compress things to make it easier, more efficient, but in the long run, I feel like it's been a detriment to us. Do you guys have any?
No, and my background with budgets has to do with working for universities. And if we didn't spend money, we didn't get it the next year. If we didn't spend all your budget, you got cut, and you got cut every year if you were a good fiscal manager.
No, and I will say, different people feel different about that philosophy. My philosophy is slightly different. That's one of the reasons that I like to do a two-year budget. In local government, it's hard for us to do long-term strategic planning, right? I mean, we're usually limited in a lot of different ways. But doing a two-year budget is one way you can think a little more long-term. And so we always leave it that option and a little bit of discretion with our directors to go to the finance director and say, can I roll some of these funds over that I didn't spend? It's all within the scope of a two-year budget. So it just gives directors, it gives finance department a little more flexibility. What if a department director says, hey, I've got this line item of things that I want to spend. It's April, and I'm not going to be able to really realistically spend these until the next fiscal year in September. Mr. Finance Director, can I roll those over? It makes sense, it's part of our program, that sort of thing. Then you can make those decisions, and you don't have to redo the whole budget. So that's kind of my philosophy, and I wanted, by doing that, I also encourage, it encourages directors a little bit to not just spend everything they have just for the sake of spending it. That's not always the best of decisions either.
No, it's not.
So
But it's, as we mentioned, we're probably not going to spend as much on books this year because we have no place to put them.
Yeah.
And we don't want to add additional storage space to have to pay for either. So, is it going to look bad if we don't spend money?
No, I
You
don't,
know-
and I think we all recognize the kind of transition the library's going on this year. So, is it helpful or not helpful for Jeannie to collapse those into one line item?
I just don't want
It's
to
a-
be caught in the same situation again. I don't
Yeah.
want, if we have a different finance manager and goes,
Yeah.
okay, that's not aware of how these items have been compressed. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll just add to what you're saying, Juanita. Scott, my background is entirely in the nonprofit sector, but I think this translates somewhat. In the case of the library, books and library programming are indeed the programming. They are not the administrative, they don't represent administrative costs of running the library. They are what we offer, right? And so, in the nonprofit world, you divide up between three main categories: programming, administration, and development, typically, right? Well, it seems to me that by collapsing these various categories, office supplies, postage, and so on, with the books and programming, we have mixed things of two different kinds.
Interesting, yeah, there might be some truth to that, and, kind of in defense of the finance people, they might see a one collapsed line item, they don't know exactly what's in there for everything, and so, maybe it does make some sense, maybe make it a little more clear, programming versus administrative things. I think it can only probably help our finance department kind of understand things a little better. So I think it's a fair comment.
I could see these 9 categories going into maybe 3 or 2.
Yeah.
Like the books and media and magazines, those things.
And
The supplies are different.
to your point, you might, Jeannie, even want to have a discussion with the finance, a budget analyst or the director, kind of about that. What makes sense? What's the best way to help finance people look at and understand programming versus training and supplies or, administrative functions? So,
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I've been working with them on a lot of this and learning about the extra encumbrance. So they said we'd kind of discovered the same thing. We kind of came together at the exact same moment. We both said, "Oh, we found something." So, this year's going to come in on balance. I mean, we're going to be balanced. So I'm not worried about it. We're tightening our belts a little, and luckily it's not as bad as I thought. It's $62,000 better than I thought. So that's good news to me.
and, like we said, we know they're in a transition year. You're not, and you probably shouldn't be spending a whole bunch of stuff because where can you put everything? So I think there's a good understanding of that. And when Jeannie and I and the finance director, Teresa, met, it was a good conversation just to understand that. So I think Jeannie will be able to come back to you in a month or so and kind of give you a report that gives her confidence that she'll have what she needs when we get to that point. So.
Wonderful,
Thank you.
great. Yes, David?
Just one other comment, and this is really underscoring a point that's already been made, but I'll do it anyway. I'm a preacher at heart, So, when we first were apprised of the budgetary situation by Jeannie, alarm bells went off, at least in my head, and I think several of my colleagues, particularly around reopening. Because we had, at least in my mind, we had this picture of like one deflated balloon for our grand reopening. Right? That's what we could afford. I don't think that does justice to the effort, right? And so we want to have a significant event, not to mention current books, right? Being the refreshed and renovated library. So that's what we are hoping to achieve in the modifications or through this discussion, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a historic event. People are
It will
really
be.
getting excited. It's more than just a refresh and modification.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a whole new rebirth of the library.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The way, I looked at it, and it was really, I remember when I first got here, and I've talked to Jeannie about this a little bit, is you had gotten your grant from the state. I can't remember how much it was.
6.5 million.
6.5 million, but we didn't really have a plan for, we could have spent that, we could have done a $6.5 million project. We could have, redone the bathrooms. We could have, maybe found a new air conditioning unit and a few other things.
Yeah.
You couldn't have, we would have protested. We
No.
would have
Nobody would have been happy.
But we knew it needed a lot more.
Yeah.
And, kind of the comment was, well, let's, we're trying to put aside $1 million a year to, set aside until we have enough money to do it all. And I was like, well, we're gonna be here 25 years, and by then costs will, and you still won't have enough.
Yeah.
And so these are projects that need to get debt financed, and we put a financing strategy together. So in this case, a lot of great thanks to our finance department that helped put a financing strategy together that let us get to the point where we could do a major debt issuance to do a proper and complete renovation of the library. So it was, how you were gonna get a project like that, like this done. So, so we're all really excited about it. And what I can read, if I could take just a minute, Madam Chair, just to kind of let everybody know, I talked to our city engineer actually yesterday and asked him to send me a progress report on how construction's coming along. I thought you'd be interested to hear. He reports to me that the project's currently on track. It's currently on budget, which was music to my ears. Construction is progressing as planned. We're excited about that. Kind of where we are now. The project, we're still in the early construction phase of the project. He gave me an estimate where that we're 18% complete, both in terms of completion and dollars spent. So we're moving along. As you know, renovation began September of last year and is still projected for completion in early 2027. There's a little flexibility in there, but early 2027. So we're looking at that. Just some recent progress that I can tell you about in the main library building. So they've completed all major demo and abatement work. That's done. They've completed completion of major structural underground concrete work. That's done. And they're nearing completion of the new Southern California Edison power run. So obviously, all big projects these days take a lot of coordination with SCE, just planning, making sure that they can deliver the energy you need to open a new major building. That work is really progressing really nice. And I haven't been in it in a while, but they're currently installing all new wall framing inside the building. A little bit of recent progress on the Fry building. They've completed all major demo and abatement work in that building, and they're nearing completion of all the overhead mechanical work in the building. So it's coming along. What's next? They're going to be doing all the steel and shear wall upgrades in the main library building. They're going to be working on the new south concrete parking lot extensions that were part of the design. That'll be starting next. And along with all overhead mechanical, electrical, plumbing installations in the main library and the Fry building. So that's kind of the next set of work that's happening. So good news, no major surprises. A lot of times you're doing a renovation of older buildings and you never quite know what you're gonna fine. I don't know if
Been there, done
we
that.
discovered all of the time capsules that Jeannie or prior people put, aside.
Found it.
So anyway, thank you for inviting me again, and we'll be working with Jeannie on kind of those library budget adjustments and working through that. And I feel real comfortable in saying that she won't be put in a disadvantage because she's in this transition year. So that's the whole point of doing a 2-year budget, so.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being here and explaining things a little further and just talking about it and your willingness to, work with the library and
Absolutely.
and get the results. We were worried. I have
Yeah.
to say we were all worried.
Okay.
And so you've definitely made me feel better.
Yes.
I don't know how everybody else feels.
I want to make everybody feel better.
Thank you.
So don't be too stressed out.
All right, great. Thank you so much,
We'll be
Zach. We
good.
really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
I'll inflate my balloon now.
Okay, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. May I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, nope, no, we haven't, okay, that's fine. Can I make a quick comment before we move on? I just wanted to say thank you, Jeannie. This is amazing what you've done with this budget to get it to balance. I mean, I think that's remarkable, and I'm sure it took a lot of effort, so thank you so much.
Well, it's funny to, I see all this and then I'm like, what did I do? And then I'm like, it's like you see the scatterbrained person with all the yarn and the stuff going everywhere, and you're like, is this my brain? And so to try to put it on paper,
Right.
to make it explainable, that's what I want to do. I want to make it make sense.
Yes.
Because it's chaos.
Oh, no, it's very well done. It's very well done. I like how
thank
you
you.
did that. Thank you so much.
But yeah, I'm confident this year for sure we're going to come in on budget, and then next year we have some options. We have some different things that different tools in our tool belt that we can lean on if we need to. But hopefully, I'm optimistic that the city's going to remember us and
Yes, wonderful.
their adjustments.
Very good. We're going to move on to item 5, and these are the administrative reports. Do we have anything from the Friends?
So the friends are not here, but and Julie's on vacation, so I know, good for her. So I will report for the library and for the Friends. The Friends had a nice book sale this was it just this past weekend? Yeah, and they made about $950, I think, or $900 at their book sale. They also had a booth at the PS Book Fest and made a little bit of money there. And as far as Friends go, they're always looking for donations. And then we are one of their fundraisers is Palm Springs Speaks, the speaker series, and we are having our season finale, if you will, with actress Jenny Garth. She is most famously known as her role as Kelly Taylor in the 1990s teen soap opera, I don't know, drama, Beverly Hills 90210. So it's funny, we are almost exactly the same age. I mean, we were born the same year, just a couple weeks apart. So I'm right along there with her. But her new book is called I Choose Me. And she also has a podcast of the same name. So she sells clothing on QVC. She's just, very, very inspirational for women and reminding everybody that self-care is really important and it's not being selfish. So we'll have her book available. Some tickets come with a book, and so you can purchase books there. But it'll be at the Plaza Theater. It'll be our, like I said, our season finale, and tickets are available through palmspringspeaks.org or Ticketmaster or the Plaza Theater, or at the Plaza Theater box office. So, anything else for the Friends? Friends that you can think of?
Did they have a sale this weekend?
Yeah, that's
Oh.
their $900.
That was last
Oh,
weekend,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I can think of for them. So that's the Friends report.
Okay,
And-
wonderful. Thank you very much. And Palm Springs Public Library Foundation.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good to be with you. I wish I could be with you in person. Have several things to report on. First, just want to let you know that on March 8th, we had a very successful Cocktails on the Page event. We had 110 people at Carol Talashay, one of our board members' homes. And the featured authors were Lucy Arnaz and Larry Luckenbill. I want to have a special call out to Julie, who was able to bring them to us, and they agreed to donate their time to this fundraising event for the Library Foundation. They were a huge hit. The goodwill that evening was just incredible, and the setting was gorgeous. Everybody, all 110 people, had an amazing evening in support of us. Then on March 16th, just 8 days later, we held a donor cultivation event at the same board member's home, Carol Talashay. So Carol's been really going over and above the call of duty, having 2 events at her home in 8 days. The donor cultivation event, we invited people to hear about the capital campaign, and we had about 90 people present. It was a great program. We had a couple of individuals speaking, including Eric Cheel, Sue Burnside. Jeannie spoke at the event. People were very moved. That event, at this point at least, has produced about another $100,000 for the capital campaign, which we're very excited about. Third thing I wanted to report to you is that we are in the process of creating a planned giving or a legacy program for the foundation, where we would encourage individuals to leave money in their will or estate plan to the Library Foundation. And this is a part of our capital campaign where we're hoping to raise a $5 million endowment. So any legacy gifts that we receive would, of course, go into that endowment fund. And we're hoping that that will be an appeal that will be exciting to a number of people who are in our donor database who will be approaching specifically about legacy gifts. We're also in the process of planning a major fundraising event where we hope to raise $50,000 or more, having a major name who I'm not going to announce tonight, but we have our hopes set on someone whose name would be very recognizable. The Art Museum has generously agreed to donate the entire facility to our event in 2027 on a day when the museum is closed to the public. So it'll be a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So we're hoping that that event will take place in March of 2027, and that would take the place of Cocktails on the Page, because we would be hoping to attract about 450 people to that event at the Art Museum. Also wanted to let you know that in the last 2 years, we've done a second solicitation of individuals each year. We do our annual year-end solicitation in November, December, and then we do a March-April solicitation called Library Giving Day. The Library Giving Day solicitation letters went out in mid-March. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Personal notes from our board members. And to date, we've received about $10,000 in donations from that appeal. And those checks will still be coming in for the next couple of weeks. Next, I wanted to let you know that the Foundation Board is doing strategic planning at its May board meeting. We have a facilitator who's going to be working with the board. She's been doing focus groups of our board, small groups of our board members in advance of the strategic planning. And our May board meeting is not going to be a traditional board meeting. It's going to be a 3-hour session starting at 3 o'clock on May 14th. Again, facilitated by Sue Hall, our strategic planning facilitator. We would imagine that by the end of the 3 hours, we're going to have some major goal areas picked for the foundation over the next 3 years. And then we assume that there's going to be more need for some in-depth planning with those major goal areas from the foundation board itself to identify some of the strategies, champions, timeline for those goal areas. That's all going to start on May 14th. Last thing I'll report to you is that several months ago, the foundation organized an advocacy committee, a committee where we hope to be able to talk to the city council members, talk about the value of the library, encourage them to have strong public funding for the library. And we're going to attract individuals to sit on that committee. Jeannie sits with this committee, of course, to educate the committee members on what the various needs are with the library's budget. And we're hoping that we'll have members that represent all 5 of the city council districts. We'd very much love to have members of the library board of trustees sitting on that group also. So if that's something that any of you are interested in being a part of, we'd welcome your involvement. It's probably going to be a matter of maybe 5 to 6 committee meetings a year for an hour on Zoom, and then opportunities to send email messages, written letters, and potentially public testimony at the city council meetings. That's the entire work of that committee, to try to really focus on getting the city council. First of all, the city council is already incredibly supportive of the library. And I think you heard from Scott Stiles tonight, city manager, that same sense of support is being expressed there. So it's not like we have a heavy lift in front of us trying to encourage support that's not there. It's just a matter of continuing to remind members of the city council how important the library is, how many people use it, and that we have a strong group of individuals in this community who support the library. So that's the extent of my report tonight. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. And again, we are so appreciative at the foundation of all the support that this foundation is giving to us. We're going to be coming back to you in early July for the final year of your grant that you've approved to pay for the staffing costs of the foundation. So we'll hopefully present a proposal to you in July for that, and you'll be seeing us then. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, there are no questions. Thank you again for your report. Okay, and now we're moving on to library staff.
Okay, so one thing I did forget to mention with Palm Springs Speaks is that on March 30th, we had C.C. Moore, the DNA detective, genetic genealogist, give a presentation, and she was fantastic. It was a great presentation. She was just up there by herself giving a slideshow presentation, and it was really great. She worked for many years and still does on Finding Your Roots, the PBS TV show. So a really wonderful program to have her. It's just something completely different from our other author events, but it was really good and very timely. I think, talking about Nancy Guthrie and just things going on in the true crime world and how their work has helped solve, what'd you say, like 400 cold cases at this point.
My gosh,
Like,
wow.
so much work. It was really fascinating. I'm very proud to say that last night we went to City Council for our naming rights, and it was so wonderful that the City Council approved the naming of the renaming of the J.C. Fry Building to the Friends of the Palm Springs Library Building. The pledge amount from the Friends is $250,000, but you have to also consider the amount of giving that they have given to the library over the decades. I mean, even in just the last 5 years, it's been $500,000. So, I mean, well over $1 million of giving that they have supported the library over their 50 plus years of service to us. And then the naming of the desert landscaping for Jane Lickenhoff. She was, you might recognize the Licken Trail. And Carl Licken, her dad, was one of the founding members of the Library Board of Trustees. And he was on the board at his death at age 87 in 1970, when I say 72 or something. So he was on the board for a long time and was a really a big community leader. And she grew up here and lived here many years and was a horsewoman, I guess is what you might call her. But she was such an outdoors person. She would take people I think the story I read in her obituary that she got a pair of roller skates, but all the streets were dirt. So instead she decided to get a horse. And so she was a child with a horse and she went everywhere. And then she led all these trail rides and, all these excursions on the trails. And so just to name the desertscape after her, I think is very appropriate because it'll be something that everybody sees. When they come into the library, they'll see the plaque on, in the landscaping. And I imagine that's how it will be. And so I think that's a really good gift. And her estate, it's part of the Inland Empire Community Foundation. And it's not just a set dollar amount, it's an ongoing gift based off the proceeds of her estate. So we're, I think, Peter, one of 5 organizations?
Four, actually.
4 separate organizations that are going to receive a sustaining gift every year from her estate, while supplies last. But, I think that's a really amazing legacy, and so grateful to Greg and Catherine Huff, who are the trustees of her estate, and they're thinking of us. It's so wonderful. And then, like Scott Stiles said, the other categories of naming opportunities. Where's my attachment? Oh, right here. Those total $525,000 of categories for naming Scott Stiles, not counting the ones that were the gifts of distinction, I call them, for the library director level. So we've got the atrium named, a study room and a children's room, creative elements, the family patio, a large study room for our very own Deborah Schwartz in memory of her mother, the local history wall, the passport office, and then a special category, a rainbow endowment, $50,000. That's to start an LGBTQ endowment for programming and materials, specifically called out, like I said, for LGBTQ items. And then, all the other people who gave to different categories, book stacks and just gifts in general, computer terminals, a children's play structure. So we're so grateful. The koi pond is still available for naming. And I told council that I'd be happy to come back if we have more names we need to add. So we're always still opportunities available for naming. And we thank everybody for their gifts because every dollar counts. There's no doubt about it. Large or small, these gifts all add up and are making a difference in our library. Speaking of making a difference, our children's librarian, Nancy Valdivia, was honored with the Mayor's Award at the Palm Springs Women's Club annual gala on March 26th. And it was such a nice honor for her. Mayor Soto brought her on stage and gave her a beautiful award, and really nice. And then Nancy actually got to speak about her 20 plus years of service as a children's librarian in Palm Springs. And so that was a really great thing that happened to our children's librarian, and really good recognition from the mayor. Let's see, what else do I have? I've got a bunch of stuff. Sorry. I have recorded a segment on Talking with Thalia on NBC Palm Springs. It will be airing April 21st in the morning. I'm not sure what time that segment runs, but sometime in the morning show with Thalia.
It's between 6 and 7.
Oh.
It will also be online too.
I can always record it and watch it later.
I'm getting ready for work. But, yeah, so we already recorded the segment. It's great. It's talking about Jenny Garth and Palm Springs Speaks. And So that's wonderful. I, with Jeffrey Norman, recorded a segment on Desert Chat with Sandy Newton. We're not sure exactly the date that it's gonna air, maybe May 5th, I'm not sure, but that is for the Library Foundation's capital campaign, just to talk about that, that opportunity. And, let's see, the city is hosting a vendor fair. That will be on Wednesday, April 15th, in the morning at the Convention Center. We will be, all the departments of the city will be there, and it's a great way if you are a small business owner or a contractor or any, you know, print shop, anything, to kind of learn how the city puts out requests for proposals or puts out requests for bids through their vendor portal. And so really, it's a good opportunity for small businesses, local businesses, to come and learn how to become a vendor with the city, and not just our city, with other cities too. So it's a valley-wide vendor fair. As a reminder, citywide boards and commission recruitment is open now until April 30th. You can apply online. Or go talk to the city clerk's office about applying online. So again, that's open until April 30th. There are several boards and commissions that are going to have openings in July 1st, right? Let's see, Julie is reporting, we have a lot of great programs at the library going on right now. We've got some tenant rights workshops with Riverside Legal Aid. Always check our library website for details, because we've got some amazing programs. We had one today, it was a great one, the importance of pollinators. So I missed out, unfortunately. Now, again, we have some wonderful programs. We have such a variety of programs. We do some at the Mizell, some at the Wellwood, so keep an eye on our programming schedule. The library did participate in the Palm Springs Book Festival that happened March 27th through the 29th at the Festival Theaters in Palm Springs. The library, the foundation, and the Friends all participated. We had 3 storytime readings featuring Bella DeBall, Councilmember Grace Garner, and Palm Springs Police Chief Andy Mills. We had an author talk with Kate Luckenbill, who is the daughter of Lucy Arnaz and Larry Luckenbill, a granddaughter of Lucy and Desi. And so she was discussing her grandfather Desi Arnaz's book that was recently re-released with added content provided by her and her mom Lucy. So that was a really great talk. The library had a table, we signed up a bunch of library cards, issued new library cards, updated some accounts. The Library Foundation underwrote the screening of the documentary film The Librarians. And that was, I've seen it 3 times now, and it is well worth a watch. I think you can watch it on PBS or YouTube. There are some ways to watch it online. In April, the Pez display at the Wellwood will be coming down, so I'm not sure exactly when, but I know we've got a new exhibit coming up. So April 21st through the 26th, the Wellwood will be hosting an exhibit for Lesbian Visibility Week titled Trailblazing Lesbians of the Coachella Valley. So we invite you to check out that exhibit, but say goodbye to Pez. It was cute, so cute. And say hello to Lesbian Visibility Week. This summer, the library will be partnering with Deserted Films and the Palm Springs Cultural Center in a film series celebrating the 250th anniversary of our country. The library will be underwriting 1 screening, a Saturday matinee, to make it free to attend. However, the other films will screen on Thursday evenings in June and 1 in July, and there will be a ticket fee for those, but titles to be announced soon. So stay tuned for information on that. But the title of the film series is Where Were You in 1976? A look back at bicentennial cinema. Arun was not born. But we are working on that film series. I think that'll be a really neat thing. I think Julie's planning like some, Bad News Bears and because that came out in that era. And finally, save the date for summer reading, which will start on June 9th and continue through July 19th. This year's theme is Plant a Seed, Read. And we are excited about that program. We've also got Earth Day coming up. We'll have a little plant giveaway on April 22nd at the library while supplies last. And I believe Muller's donated, that sounds right. Muller's, I believe, is the donating or company who's giving us some plants to give away, maybe some succulents or something. And one note that is not related to my report, but just a note that we need to change our June 3rd meeting date. So let me
Okay.
forget.
All right.
Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jeannie?
We're starting a new, I don't know when it starts, but we're starting a new activity at the Leisure Center with Parks and Rec that we'll be doing some teen programming out there with them. So they're very
Oh, fun.
excited.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
don't know the date or when it starts, but it'll be fun.
Okay, we don't have Al here, but we do have the treasurer's report.
I can report.
Okay.
No change. Seriously, I don't believe there have been any
Looks pretty much the same.
we haven't spent, we spent the 4,000 that came in and the 10,000 for books and 4,000 for books, and that's really been it, except for interest income and some small donations that have come in, so.
Move to adopt as submitted.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so we've already moved this item 7 up, so, we really don't need to discuss naming opportunities since we got that
Oh,
update already.
sorry.
What are we gonna do?
I just handled that.
Yes. And library renovation updates.
And Scott really
Scott
gave
really
that.
handled
Kind of does. Wow, we're so efficient tonight. Okay, at this time, I'd like to go ahead and ask David to read the letter that you presented to us.
Thanks, Anita. Bear with me, I've got a bit of a cough besides. With this statement, I want to register a concern and make a request. I'm concerned about the library's trust funds, and I ask that a discussion around policy and strategy concerning them be added to the agenda of a future meeting of this board. I'm now in the second year of a second term, serving as a trustee. During these 5 years, we have spent a large portion of the trust funds on the renovation of the facilities now underway. As this is a once-in-a-generation effort, this investment seems entirely appropriate and has received our unanimous approval as a board. We have also supported the Foundation's initiatives pertaining to fundraising for both the renovation and the formation of an endowment. This investment, too, has received the board's unanimous approval. Nonetheless, in my years of service thus far, I personally do not recall that we have engaged in a serious discussion about long-term strategy and policy relating to the library's trust funds. Last month, we observed that the trust funds are being depleted. Moreover, we heard from Jeannie that with the advent of the foundation and an endowment held by it, trust funds would no longer be needed. That may very well be true. I recognize that private support of public services and facilities is a long-term trend in our country. Nevertheless, for us, it represents a fundamental shift in policy and authority, one that we have neither explicitly discussed nor decided upon deliberately. Any endowment created by the foundation will be, by definition, a privately held endowment managed by a self-perpetuating board of directors. The library's trust funds have been managed by a board of trustees, appointed by a city council, and obliged to represent the public interest. It is this shift taking place without our deliberate consideration and decision that troubles me. I believe it is incumbent upon us as trustees to understand the ramifications of such a shift and learn from precedents set in other municipalities. Who knows? There may be a third course of action whereby the library is supported by both public and private sources. In conclusion, I will say explicitly that I do not raise this issue because I harbor any doubt about either the good intentions or the sound capabilities of the Foundation's leadership. From my perspective, its work has been outstanding, and for it, I am grateful. Their prudent planning and action, however, should not and cannot substitute for our own.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you. Yeah, we have not had a discussion about this. And I think it's really important that we do have a discussion so that going forward, there's a clear path that we are going to be navigating and absolutely. So can we add this to next month's agenda, and then we can have a discussion about it and decide what course we feel we need to take or want to take as a board?
I think that's a good
Absolutely.
idea.
Okay.
I think if you don't mind too, I might also reach out to the city attorney just to kind of get his standing on kind of the roles of all of this too.
That would be
Kinda
great.
get
Yeah.
a
That would
legal
be great.
feedback on that too.
Can I just ask a
Absolutely.
question? How are the members of the foundation selected or appointed?
They're not appointed.
They're-
I mean, the city is not involved in that.
I
They're a
understand
totally
that.
separate entity. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know. We
But-
can ask Bill.
Peter,
I mean, Peter.
Peter, can you tell us how you,
Like me to respond to that? Sure. So one of the standing committees of the foundation is a nominating and governance committee chaired by Robin Meltzer. That committee has 4 members, and the committee regularly vets the resumes of individuals who have been suggested to be board members for the foundation. It then interviews those individuals and then comes back to the full board of the foundation to make a recommendation as to which of them should be added to the foundation's board. So currently the members of that committee, like I said, are Robin Meltzer, who chairs it, Ed McBride is on the committee, Christy Cook, and Gary Grace. That comprises the nominating committee. It's a very deliberative process. And just because a person indicates an interest in the foundation does not mean they're going to be added to the board. That committee really does a careful job of reviewing the candidates, determining what skills are needed in the foundation, and then offers a board membership to those individuals to come before the full board for approval.
how many people are on the full board?
25 members are on the full board.
Thanks, I just,
And we have term limits on the board.
I
So
appreciate
an
the
individual can
clarification.
serve, we recruit an individual for 1 3-year term. And then the nominating committee reviews their participation at the end of that 3 years and decides whether they will be offered an additional 3-year term going forward. There's no assumption that you will automatically receive the maximum number of terms. You have to be re-engaged by the nominating committee, who then submits for re-election once your term is over.
Did you have a question?
No, he answered it. Thank you, Peter.
Wonderful. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay.
No, I think that's a
Great.
really good idea. Good thinking strategically too about the trust fund and all.
Okay, that's
I
wonderful.
think that's
So that'll
great.
be in our next, up for discussion in our next meeting.
And then for future agenda items too, I think that we have to decide what to do about the June meeting. The reason why we have to move our meeting is because the city council has scheduled a joint meeting with the Agua Caliente Band of Kuya Indians Tribal Council. So it's exactly the same night and time as ours, except that it will be at the convention center, and we shouldn't conflict with their
Right.
meeting.
Sure.
So,
Okay, do you have any dates that you?
I have nothing. I know we can't decide today because it wasn't on our agenda.
Okay.
But it's possible that I could send out an email or something, and then we would we would propose, I don't know, we'll have to definitely propose it at the May meeting and,
Okay.
or
What
maybe
was our-
you don't need a June meeting, I don't know.
It's June the 3rd.
It was June 3rd was
Mhm.
was what we have, so that needs to be, okay, so
Or-
just to keep that in mind.
Also, if you have any dates that are bad for you, you could tell me them now, you know, if there's some, but that might be that might be terrible to say. Oh, also, they are looking at a possible joint boards and commission annual meeting.
Oh, that's right.
With the
Yeah.
council in June. At first I thought it was gonna be June 15th, it may be the 25th. We're not sure.
Oops.
We're still working on that.
Okay,
It may not be the same format as the previous years either. It may just be an informal gathering, so.
okay.
We'll find out, we'll know more. We may, I don't know, like this, as an example, for this month, we moved to the Thursday, like maybe June 11th might be a good choice. I'm not sure, school's out,
Mhm.
but, I guess we'll just, I don't know how the room calendar
Okay.
for
Yeah.
this room to tell.
Right,
If this
Well-
room's available, or if we'd have to go across the street.
It'd be helpful to have Deborah and
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
it'd be nice if
Right.
you have to tell us when they're available. Okay,
So I think we'll have to decide at the May meeting what the June date will be.
sounds good, we can do that.
Sorry for the last minute possible change.
No worries. Okay, wonderful. It is 6:37 PM and I've called this, and this meeting is adjourned for the Library Board of Trustees. And our next meeting is scheduled for 5:30 PM on Wednesday, May 6th in this conference room. Thank you very much, everyone.
Very good.